why most offers stall at 100,000 a month.
The biggest reason for that is,
Why am I unable to make?
honestly, the biggest thing that holds you back from marketing lens.
For some people watching this, they might think 100,000 is a pretty big goal, and you truly want to hit those,
So their thought process is, if
if I hire someone, how do I hedge against that?
you go from a 10x return.
Now I want to scale. I want to hit 500K a month, 750, a million. All right, welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Two Bearded Info Guys podcast, where we break down how you can scale your high ticket offer, make a lot more money. And in this episode, we are going to be talking about something that we've seen a lot of different business owners struggle with, which is why most offers stall at 100,000 a month. Now, for some people watching this, they might think 100,000 is a pretty big goal, but we've worked with clients who we've taken up to almost $1 million a month in cash collected, and getting past that $100,000 mark is not as easy as it may seem. And there's a couple different reasons to it, which we're going to break down from both a marketing and systems perspective, and also from a sales perspective. But we can kick things off from a marketing perspective. I know it's kind of pretty broad because there's so much that goes into marketing, especially when scaling that offer. But let's say, for example, I have an offer right now, right? I'm doing 100,000 a month. Let's say I'm spending whatever X amount on ads, maybe like 15, 20, 25K a month, almost 4 or 5 extra was. Why am I unable to make, let's say, $500,000 from a marketing side?
Yeah, this is a fun one because that 50K to 100, maybe 120K a month is like that area where it's like, once you dip into it, it's hard to get out if you don't know what you're looking for. So it really comes down to the price that you're selling. If you're selling low ticket, mid ticket, it's a bit more different. If you're doing high ticket, I think most of our viewers are in the high ticket space. Honestly, the biggest thing that holds you back from marketing lens between 50 to 100K, or like at that 100K per month mark, isn't really the marketing, it's the sales. The sales is the biggest bottleneck.
Why do you say that?
The biggest reason for that is you are now handicapped to the compensation that the rep makes. So typically, if an offer is between 50 to 100K, you have 1 to 2 reps.
Yeah.
If the business owner is smart and wants to diversify risk, they'll have 2 sales reps.
Yeah.
Obviously, because if one rep leaves for whatever, you've got the other guy to back him up. So on the marketing side, now we're handicapped because if one sales rep doesn't perform, it's not that one sales rep doesn't perform. It's 100% of the sales team not performing, or it's 50% of the sales team not performing.
Yeah.
So then that's where your return on ad spend is very, very volatile. You can get a consistent cost per booked call. Let's say if you're running like cold traffic, $50 a call, $80 a call, whatever. Like, let's say you have a decent show rate, but if that sales rep is not closing as well as they should, then the return on ad spend is messed up. And that's not because it's one rep that isn't performing. It's because 50% of the sales team isn't performing, or 100% of the sales team isn't performing. So like, there's one account that we're working with. If they're watching this, hopefully they don't know who it is, but basically they only have one closer. And advertising's been consistent, good bookings, everything's well. Despite that, they have our lowest cost per call, but our lowest return on ad spend.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense, because generally speaking, if you have a low cost per call, your return on ad spend is high. And that's because there's been inconsistencies on the sales front.
And we're not managing the sales team. We're not doing anything from the sales side. We're just helping them with the marketing.
Yeah, now you completely outed who they are if they're watching this. But anyway, that's besides the point. That's the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge by far is just the inconsistency in reps. And also setters, it's almost impossible to retain a setter if you're only doing 50K a month.
But let's say, for example, again, let's say I'm doing 50 to 100,000 with my offer. Let's say I have 1 to 2 reps. Let's say they're performing well, right? Now I want to scale.
Yeah. So
before you answer, because I want to give some context, right? So the thing that a lot of business owners don't realize is what's working at that level is not going to keep working at scale. So from a marketing side, what are you seeing that different high ticket business owners are running into from a marketing side, like different mistakes they're making or things that start breaking down that they don't anticipate that you can potentially help them avoid?
So 2 things come to mind. One thing that comes to mind is, and again, we're going to assume this is a purely cold offer, or even let's actually give 2 examples, warm offer and cold offer. If this is purely cold, generally speaking, when you're advertising on Meta, when you're not spending a lot, maybe you're spending $500 a day, $300 a day, nothing crazy, like not in the thousands yet. Meta is finding the lowest of the lowest hanging fruit. They're finding basically in market audiences, people that are looking in market and they're ready to buy.
What do you mean by that? Like
In market, so for
what does that
example,
look like?
like you've got different types of awareness. You've got completely unaware,
Mhm.
and then you've got problem aware, you have solution aware, product aware, and then most aware. That's how you want to kind of look at awareness.
Mhm.
Now, when you're, let's say, advertising a specific program, let's say you're selling, I don't know, marketing agency services. What Meta is going to do is it's going to find people that are actively searching for marketing agency services. So
Okay.
it's finding the lowest hanging fruit of people that are in market. It's right time, it's the right person, and they're ready to invest.
Mhm.
So it's going to find those guys. So generally speaking, if you have a good performing sales team, return on ad spend at that budget, you can get to a 10, 15, 20x return on ad spend.
Okay.
You can get amazing returns. So what happens is as they start to scale, the business owner is like, okay, I'm going from a 10x return on ad spend to a 5. I don't want to spend as much.
But why is that?
Because naturally that pocket now has to get bigger. So Meta found all the in-market people, which is, let's say it's 1,000, okay? And then from that 1,000, only 30 were qualified enough that had the money in the right time. You hit them the ad hit them at the right time. It was at the right pain point, so they converted. Now, naturally speaking, the more you spend, once you start to spend 2, 3, 4, 5,000 a day, now Meta has to kind of expand its reach. It goes from like most aware to maybe solution aware. Solution aware, like they know that they need some sort of service. They don't know what it is, but they have an idea of what it is. That's why it's solution aware. They have an idea of that service, but they just don't know what it is exactly. Problem aware is like, I just have the issue. For example, in the context of starting a marketing agency, I just want to make money online. How I make that, I don't really know what it is. I could be a closer. I could start a e-commerce brand. I could do this, this, and that. I just want to make money online. So that's more that needs convinced, because first you have to tell them why an agency is the best route, and then you have to sell them on you. So naturally, it becomes harder to get them into your funnel. So your cost per call goes up, and then your closers are going to have to close colder leads. And you can talk more about the sales. But basically what's happening is now Meta is trying to find this. And this applies for Google ads, applies for all types of ads. But basically what happens is, as a business owner, it's a fear that stops you going from, and this is on the contingency that the offer is doing well. On the example that it's a warm offer, so let's say someone's all organic, he's doing 100K a month, organically. Now he starts to introduce another medium or another source to scale past that. Let's say he's never run ads before, and he runs ads and he's at a 5x return. He's spending 1,000 and making 5,000 back. He's like, I have to spend $1,000 to make 5,000 back. Like, that's scary. Like, organic is free.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of limiting beliefs that these offer owners have. And just to kind of finish this point is, you go from a 10x return down to a 5. A 5x return on ad spend on cold is still very good, especially if your fulfillment costs are low and your commissions are properly set. You're still making good money. But then the fear kicks in. It's like, I was making a 10x, so I'm going to scale back ad spend. So they never scale. So their thought process is, if I spend, I don't know, 5,000 a month and I have a 10x return, I'm going to make 50K a month. I like that. 45K net before I pay fulfillment and whatnot. But what they fail to realize, if you're able to spend 100,000 a month, and let's say you only make a 3x return, not 5, 3x, you're still making 200,000 profit, obviously before you spend on fulfillment, which is still more money. But it's because of that fear of, I'm making less, my return on ad spend is low, it doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not saying run ads until you get to like a 1.5x. It still has to make sense. But if you're at a 10x, you can't sustain that. If you're at a 15x, you won't sustain that.
So you touched on something interesting. So you're saying there's different levels of awareness.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not spending that much money, you're spending, let's say, $500 a day, you're hitting those people that are like, essentially like easy leads.
Yeah, like they're ready to buy, basically.
So let's say, for example, again, I'm that business owner, I'm doing 50 to 100K a month. Now I want to scale. I want to hit 500K a month, 750, a million, right? I'm scaling ad spend, and like you said, I'm now hitting those leads that maybe they're just problem aware, maybe they're solution aware, maybe they're like barely either of those. How do I make them convert? Because like you said, you're gonna run into issues with your closers. They're gonna be struggling with those cold leads. They're not gonna be converting as much. Cost per call is gonna go up more. So what do you do then if you're in your position as a media buyer?
Yeah, so at this point, it goes past media buying. At this point, you're not just buying media. You're not just running ads. You have to focus a lot more on that nurture journey. As soon as they book in a call, what does that communication process look like from the moment they book till the time they show up? And this is, again, we're assuming a VSL funnel. If you have a webinar, that's another way you can scale. So you can start to look at different mechanisms. You can obviously, VSLs are the most kind of reliable. Then you can run webinars, you can run challenges. Ultimately speaking, with webinars and challenges, they're a longer sales format, which is a lot better at taking someone that's problem aware or maybe unaware to getting them to a point where they're ready to buy. Because you're spending more time with them. A webinar could be anywhere between 1 to 5 hours. It could even be a full day. But they're spending enough time with you where you're kind of taking that long sales cycle, that long of them getting to know you and then be aware of the problem and solution and so on, and you're condensing it over a very small amount of time, but you're bursting so much information that you build that relationship very, very quickly.
But let's say for the sake of simplicity, I'm running a VSL offer, right? Never done webinars, not even planning on doing webinars anytime soon. I don't have that luxury of, like you said, nurturing in such a short period of time. So what are my options from a marketing perspective? How do I turn someone who, like you said, might be problem aware, solution aware, but they're not ready to buy, to basically be ready to buy by the time that they hop on the closes call? What would you do as a marketer or a media buyer?
So the biggest thing is the nurture process. You can't get around that.
But what does that look like? Like, let's say, for example, I'm asking you, what do I do to help them get nurtured?
Yeah. So typically speaking, if you're running cold, you don't really need a crazy nurture process until you're actually past 100K. Like before 100K, you can kind of get through it, depending again on on the audience you have, and if you have a warm audience. If you're running cold, honestly, if you have dogs on your team, sales reps, you're targeting very in-demand people. Like you're targeting people that want to buy that service, you can get them in. Once you get past that, then yes, you need to start to target them with like retargeting ads that kind of educate them, show them more about what they're getting them to buy in on you. There's always 3 types of uncertainty. Uncertainty in you, the company, uncertainty in the method. So this is when you're talking to problem-aware audiences. So like let's say it's an audience that wants to lose weight. Now, I don't know if I should lose weight via surgery, via keto, via intermittent fasting, via whatever. So they need to be bought in on the method. Why? The ketogenic diet is the best diet. And then they have to be bought in on themselves being able to follow those steps and get those results. Meaning, have I seen a testimonial of someone like me who's a truck driver that doesn't have time to meal prep, that doesn't have time to go to the gym? Can I actually lose weight using the ketogenic diet through your program? If those 3 are a yes, I can buy. But if one of those are missing, there's doubt. So you need to feed content. That could be through emails. That could be through the sales team, right? It could be given through setters. 100%. That could be done through retargeting ads, where you're sending them video views. That can be done through a thank you page that's well thought out, that has enough nurturing information. But it really comes down from that point of when they book to the time that they show up on the call. It's very, very important.
So to summarize, if I'm doing 50 to 100K and I'm running ads, right? Chances are I'm doing ads with a lot of direct copy, calling out, the ICP, they book a call, decent show rate, mainly because we're hitting those buyers or those leads that are somewhat warm, even though it's a cold offer. Like, they understand
they're in demand. They're in the market.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's not a lot of convincing I have to make.
Yeah. Like for example, like that one. Like there's one offer we were running. I won't mention what, but when we started running cold ads, it was cold.
Yeah.
But the people jumping on the call were like, I've been looking into this. Like they were in demand. They were in the market.
Yeah.
It was the right person. They're looking for the thing, and they're ready. And that's because and at the end of the day, Meta wants you to spend, because if you make money, you will spend more money.
Yeah.
If they start to give you garbage leads, and this is why people say, oh, ads don't work. It's like, no, ads do work. If it didn't work, they wouldn't be $1 trillion company.
Yeah.
Like the only reason why they're valued so much is because people are successful advertising, and so they continue to spend. Because if they don't get results, they'll just stop advertising.
Yeah. Imagine being Meta. People are just paying you to just like put up pictures.
Actually, it's insane. And that's the power of distribution and media.
Yeah.
But basically, to kind of summarize, in between that 50 to 100K, oftentimes it's limiting beliefs from the owner. They go from a 10x return to a 5x and they start to panic. Not really fully seeing that a 5x return at scale, if you're making $500,000 a month and you're spending 100K to make $500,000, you're still netting 400,000. Sure, it's not 50K at a 10x. Actually, no, sorry. So it's not like you're spending 5K at a 10x to make 50K. At that point, you're only making 45K. Yeah. So like, it's like, yes, you're going to give up more, but cash wise, you're going to make more.
It's like the saying, would you rather a whole grape or half of a watermelon?
Exactly. 100%. So that's on the marketing side. Limiting beliefs from the owner. And and really just the sales team. Because again, you're only at one rep. If anything happens, it's like, if my one rep has to go on vacation, I have to pause the ads. And if I have to pause the ads, that puts my ads back into learning. If it goes back into learning, it's going to take 3 days to kickstart again. Like, remember, we were working with that one account where we had to pause the ads for a week. It took another week just to get them back to where they were. Yeah. So it's like we got cooked for 2 weeks. And it's like, because we only have like 2 reps on the account. Yeah. But if you have an account with like 5 reps, sure, one person goes on vacation or one doesn't perform, that's only 20% of the team that doesn't perform. Like, you still have the rest of the team performing.
Okay, that makes sense. So from the marketing side, they said limiting beliefs, understanding that even though you will be spending more money and ROAS might take a hit, you'll still end up making more money.
No, it will take a hit. For sure. Okay. Yeah, it is going to take a hit, but you'll make more money.
And then the other thing is just you need to start focusing a bit more on the nurture journey.
100%. Okay. Very, very important.
Okay. Anything else from the marketing side that you want to add?
There may be other things, but I think it'll be good for you to touch more on the sales. Because I know the sales is tricky. At that mark, when you don't have a team and it's one rep, it's volatile.
Yeah. Honestly, you're 100% right. I think that 50 to 100K mark is probably the worst position for you to be in.
It's like once you get to it, it's like great, you're making money, but damn, if something hits the fan, it hits the fan.
Yeah, because at that level, you are making enough money that you can still hire salespeople, but you're not making enough money where you can attract the best salespeople.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So you're stuck in this dilemma where it's like, if I want to get to that next level, I need A players. But because you're not at that next level, I can't hire A players. So what do I do?
Yeah, the number one question that Clojure asked you was like, well, how much have other reps made on this account? And you tell them, well,
4K.
You're the first rep, bro. You're the second rep on this account.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that go into the sales side, but the first of which I think is very overlooked, is having a more attractive comp plan, right? Because to touch on also with regards to the mindset of the business owner, the limiting beliefs, if you're making 50 to 100K and you truly want to hit those, bigger months like 500, 750, $1 million a month, you need to stop thinking like someone that's making 100K. You need to understand that, maybe you're pocketing, let's say 30, 40K at the end of each month. But if you want to pocket, let's say 200, 300, $500,000 at the end of each month, you need to start thinking like that person. And the first step is realizing that you need good talent. And how do you get good talent?
100%.
You pay them a lot more, right? And that's something that a lot of offer owners simply are just not willing to do. Like even with our own offer, right? If, especially since we're just starting out, we're more than happy to pay way more than market average because we understand that we're not making the kind of money that we want to make where we're able to pay someone from a normal comp structure.
Yeah.
If they're getting paid 10%, they're not going to make a crazy amount because the offer just launched, right? It hasn't been active that long. So that's one thing. There's different ways you can go about it. Either you can pay them a base salary, which is very attractive in the high ticket space because most people don't. And you can pay them a much higher percentage.
Yeah.
You can give very aggressive bonuses as well. So there's a couple different ways, but the point I'm trying to make, pay them more.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because you're going to because ultimately it's also, I think people forget that. Think of it from the closer's perspective or the seller's perspective. It's like, why work for you if you're only making 100K a month if I can work for a company that's already at $500,000 a month?
Exactly.
And my OTE could possibly be a lot higher. It's risky to work for a new offer. It's a lot more
stable too, right? Sure, you're making 100,000 this month, but how much were you making last month?
Yeah.
Or the month before, right? And like you said, if the closer leaves, we went from 100 to like 20K.
Yeah.
Now the seller is cooked, right? So you're in a very sensitive area. And it's a very risky position for you to be in because you have no leverage.
That's why, bro, I told you it's the salespeople, man. That's the hardest thing.
I know.
By far.
It always comes back to sales.
Always comes back to especially at that point. Because like I said, like if one closure doesn't work, that's 100% the company not performing.
So I think that's the first thing, is attracting better talent. The second thing, and I think this is also very overlooked, is at that level, as the offer owner, right, you can have your sales team basically running on autopilot. If you have 1 or 2 reps, like, how many check-ins do you have to do? How much coaching do you have to do?
Yeah, there's not that much call volume.
Right? It's like, it's not that much work. And the thing that they don't realize is that if you start hiring more people, it's not going to be like that. Right? So the thing that a lot of these offer owners overlook is that they don't have proper systems in place to support the sales team. They don't have proper KPIs. They don't have good culture. They don't have anything set up so that once they start scaling, things don't fall apart. And they've never established
tracking, reporting, all that breaks.
Exactly. So what ends up happening is, let's say I'm an offer owner, I'm like, okay, I'm willing to pay more money for better talent. And I start hiring more and more reps. but I've never managed a team this size before, right? So what's gonna happen now? Team is gonna be demotivated. They're not getting support. Things are falling apart. There's no systems in place. So now I'm back to square one. I paid a lot more money for these guys. I didn't get a return from it, and now I lost them. So now you're in an even worse position because you burnt that cash, right?
Yeah.
So the point I'm getting at is you need to start thinking less as a sales manager or a sales coach and more as someone that is able to build systems and culture, because that's going to do most of the heavy lifting for you. Because if you have that culture and system built in, anyone that you bring on is just going to get accustomed to it and stay at that level.
You just reminded me of one other thing, especially when you're kind of growing from that, let's say 100K a month to 200-300K a month. Before, maybe you had, let's say, one closer and one setter, or you had two closers, maybe one, two, or three setters.
Yeah.
Exactly. Before, it was easy to pay them. Whatever we collect, it's 2 reps. I know how to give it to you.
Yeah.
But once you start growing and you've got like 5 salespeople, including your setters, closers, and now because you don't have the systems in place, tracking and reporting is a bit muddy. Setters are like, okay, I set this person, like I need to get the commission, but you don't have the report that kind of shows that. You start paying the reps late. Reps get frustrated, start leaving.
Now you're back to square one.
You're back to square one.
Yeah, and that's a massive thing as well, because again, it goes back to systems, right? And when it comes to data, aside from the sales side, which we'll talk about in a bit, the data is probably the most important part, because again, if you're making, let's say 100,000 a month, right? You don't need to be super picky about every single number, because at the end of the day, you look at, how much is in your bank account. I paid X amount for all these different things. I made X amount. I'm happy. I don't really care about the specific details. But again, it's because there's not that many variables. If you have 1 to 2 closers, 1 to 2 setters, versus having 10 closers and let's say 50, 60 setters, right? Every small detail matters a lot more because it's a much higher scale. So if you don't have those systems when it comes to the data and the tracking, now at scale, things are going to hurt a lot more. Because if one setter isn't performing and he's cooking everything, right, it's going to have a much more bigger ripple effect, right? Every small thing is going to compound over time. So you have to be cautious and mindful of every small detail. Otherwise, it's going to just, bite you in the ass in the future. So that's another thing that you need to look into as well. But to go back to the sales side, to go back to the point that I was making, you need to build a strong culture, right? At this point in your business, again, you're not just a guy selling an offer. You're not just a guy fulfilling on the service, right? Because a lot of these people who are making 100,000 a month, let's say, they were successful with Amazon. Now they're teaching people Amazon, right? They're not sales managers. They're Amazon sellers who just have salespeople. Now you need to start thinking like a sales manager. You need to start thinking like someone that builds systems. You need to start thinking as someone that is able to essentially build a vision for this business, right? Because these people that you're hiring right now, if you do a good job with it, are most likely going to be your most loyal reps.
Yeah, they'll stay with you.
Exactly. They've been with you in the trenches from the beginning.
And even if they don't stay with you, well, for them to help you get to 200K a month, they have to stay with you. So like culture is so important. If you just churn through them, you'll never get past that.
Exactly. So you need to be able to develop these new skill sets, which, like you said, a lot of offer owners have these limiting beliefs, right? In the case of like the Amazon seller, he just tell himself like, I'm just good at Amazon. I don't want to think about sales. Well, you either force yourself to learn and put on another hat, or you hire an agency or a team to take care of that stuff for you so you can focus on what you're good at, right? And we can talk about the pros and cons of either, but the point I'm trying to make is, again, you need to start thinking in different ways. Otherwise, you'll always be stuck at that 100K mark, because it's really not that hard to get to 100,000. To get to 500,000, to get to 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. That's where that complexity comes into place. And if you don't have that foundation, which is something that we run into with the offer that we used to work with a long time ago, they didn't have that foundation. They were just constantly putting out fires.
Yeah.
Yes, they were making good money, right? They were doing several 6 figures a month. Profits were almost non-existent. Sometimes it was negative, because there was a lack of foundation, a lack of culture. And when we started working with them, we essentially just fired half the team. Anyone who was even slightly half retarded, you were gone, right? We cannot be working with you. So
yeah, I would say, that's actually a very good point. At the beginning, although you need to like maintain, build that good culture, you have to be very cutthroat. Because again, like if one person doesn't perform, that's half the team not performing.
Exactly.
KPIs and everything.
Exactly, which is another thing that you need to start thinking of if you're that offer owner, which is, how do you always maintain leverage? I know that sounds a bit unethical, but at the end of the day, it's a business. And no one cares about your business as much as you do.
Yeah.
Not your closer, not your setter, not your Marketing guy, no one. So you need to be in a position where you always have leverage. Because like you said, if I have 2 closers, one of them quits, I didn't lose one closer. I lost 50% of my sales team.
Yeah.
So now I'm in a very bad position. So how do I hedge against that? If I hire someone, how do I hedge against that? If someone isn't performing, how do I hedge against that? So you need to start taking all of these different things into account, right? And it's not going to be easy. Like, you're learning a lot at this point. This is probably the point in your business where you're going to be learning the most. Because again, 0 to 50K a month, that's like a couple closes.
Yeah.
Especially if you have
10
like
closes
that's
a
nothing,
month.
right? Fulfillment is so simple. You know, managing one closer is so easy. You might even take the calls yourself. But if you want to get to that next point, that's when you start to move away from being the Amazon guy or the trading guy and being a business owner. And that's where a lot of people mess up, because they keep approaching it as, you know, I'm good at Amazon. Here's what I think might work. But you need that expertise. And I think if you have all these things in place and you've already done 100,000, let's say for at least a couple months consistently, you have proof of concept. Right? You're able to scale to that level. But you need to make sure that every single part is dialed in, because if one thing breaks, everything's going to fall apart. You're going to go back to square one. And that's the other part that a lot of people overlook, is that with high ticket businesses, with offers, with anything sales related, it's all momentum, right? If we're scaling aggressively to 500,000, something breaks and we go back to 100,000.
Yeah, taking it back up is so much harder.
Exactly. We're not going to scale the way we did the first time. There's a lot more that needs to happen for us to get to that point and build up that momentum for us to get back to 500,000. So that's another thing that most people overlook, which is the opportunity cost, right? So you can't just be like, yeah, you know, if it happens, it happens. No, because the opportunity cost, if it happens, is going to be massive.
Yeah. I don't know what your take on this, but what I've seen, and like even from the clients that we've worked with, that getting to that 50 to 100K, even I'd say getting from 50 to 200K per month, like that gap is like the hardest. I think once you hit 200K a month, getting to 500,000 is so much faster. 100%. Then it's just math at that point. You're just calculating, okay, our reps are doing this, the show rate is this, here's our close rate, this is what we're collecting on cash. Okay, how much do we have to spend on ads? Do we want to add in a webinar? It's so much easier because you have so much more cash to play around with. And like you have more, you can risk a bit more. And then it's consistent. It's like reps are like, okay, we're locked in, we're making good money, we see the potential. I think like once you hit that 200, I think for me at least, the 200 is that gold spot. Once you hit 200 per month, then it's a lot faster. It's never easy, but like you can get there.
Simpler.
Yeah, and then just margins becomes a question. It's like, okay, we got to 700,000, but our margins are a bit down, and let's scale it back to like 500. Make sure our margins are back. But I think like that's 200 would be the gold spot for me.
Yeah, I think 150 to 200K is the sweet spot, because like you said, you have more cash. But then the other thing is that you also have a lot more data.
Yeah. 100%.
Something a lot of people don't realize, because if you just hit 100,000, yeah, you're making, you know, for the average person, a lot of money, but you don't actually know what's working. You have no clue, right? You have maybe, let's say, a month, 2 months of data. And again, getting to 100K is not that hard. So you have no clue what is like a good baseline, what's a good benchmark, what's a good, you know, if it dips, you know, are we still in a healthy range? You have no clue about anything. But if you're doing, let's say, 200,000, you've done it 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, now you have enough data to be like, okay, our cost per call is at this level, you know, this is like a critical area for us. We need to get it back to this.
Yeah. And the swings aren't as high either.
Exactly.
Like when you're at 100K a month, let's say you're closing one person a day, roughly maybe one every 3 days. Maybe you're booking 5 calls. When you're at that level, let's say the ads don't perform super well. Okay. And one day, you instead of getting 5 booked calls, you only get 2. So you get 3 less booked calls. 3 less booked calls at that level is 60% of your bookings disappearing overnight.
Exactly.
You literally have a drop in 60% of your booked calls. But when you're doing like 200-300K, and let's say you're booking 20 calls, let's say the ads fluctuate, you get 3 less bookings, it's only 10% less. Or it's only like 20% less in terms of the number of in terms of the percentage of booked calls.
Yeah.
You're still, in both examples, it's only 3 booked calls, because naturally with ads, you're advertising to people. There's fluctuation. There's volatility. You'll get maybe plus 3 calls, like minus 3 calls. But when you're small, having 3 less calls could be the equivalent of like an 80% drop in terms of your call volume. But when you're higher up, it's only a fractional drop. So there's more stability in the revenue you make.
Exactly. And for you, this might sound a lot like very obvious the way that you're speaking right now. But for most people who are at that level, they don't think of things in that way.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, oh, just 3 less calls. Oh, we only close 10K less this month. But 10K from 50K, that's 20%. That's a massive dip. But like you said, at that scale, when you're doing 2, 3, half a million, a million, right? 10K is like negligible.
It's the volatility, because naturally with ads as well, like when you're advertising, you don't get the same number of calls booked every single day.
Yeah.
It goes from, like, let's say 10 calls booked a day to 7 to 8. It's always plus or minus something. But when you're smaller out, it's a big percentage. But when you're bigger, obviously it's less. So there's more consistency and better team morale. I think overall, once you hit that 150, 200, it becomes a lot smoother. And that's why so many people, I feel, get stuck at 50 to 100, because they don't expect this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that they have to, like, get through, and building team morale. And I think we covered a lot of those points. But
Yeah.
I think overall, it's just making sure that you've got, one, the foundations. Second, you don't let volatility throw you off completely. So, like, let's say one day you don't get any booked calls, you don't start panicking, changing everything.
Yeah.
That's normal. If you're used to getting 3 booked calls per day, and one day you get 0, that's the volatility that comes involved. At the end of the day, you're advertising to people.
Yeah.
It's fine. Give it a day. Let's wait 24, 72 hours, see what happens, and continue. And then just making sure you have good culture, benefits, not benefits, but comp plans, because obviously at that level, with sales reps, you can't attract, like, the best of the best.
Of course.
But yeah, I think all those are solid points.
Yeah. I think, do you have any other final comments before we wrap it up?
No, I think that covers a lot of ground in that area.
Perfect. Well, we can wrap it up here for this episode. If you guys found this useful and beneficial in any way, make sure you subscribe and you comment down below. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up in the links in the description, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.